everyone. I am Samantha Mowat. I'm a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, and tonight I'd like to help you better understand how to recognize the direction in which you are experiencing energy around you. So what I'm trying to convey when I say that is how to recognize when an energetic presence comes into the room with you, recognizing if it's ahead of you, behind you, to your left, to your right, above you, below you, really starting to get to know the energetic vibrations that are being emitted around you and how to better be aware of when these beings are coming in front of you, such as your angelic beings, and if they're moving around your space. And the reason you want to do that is you get an idea about how a lot of these beings don't just come into our room and stay in one spot. A lot of them do actually quite move around. And part of the reason why when I'm doing readings I don't like to have video chat on is I feel kind of silly because my clients will see me looking over here, then looking over there, and I'll see something and I'll get kind of distracted and I'll just focus on a being if I'm talking to it, and it'll look really weird because I feel kind of disrespectful if I'm not looking at you. I feel kind of rude if I'm staring off over this way looking at a being who's come into my space. And so part of what my guides did to help me to develop that ability to see them when they're coming in, to really recognize the different vibrational frequencies that they're emitting, was to get me to start becoming aware of my own auric field. I've been already starting to release videos about how people can better connect into their auric field, how they can recognize when it's their energy versus someone else's, and how to do some very basic things like recognizing their thought patterns and stuff like that. And the reason this is important is when you have a lot of these beings coming into your space, your thought patterns may change. And this is because the vibrational frequency within the area that you're in is actually shifting from one vibrational section into another one. Think of it this way. If I'm walking into a room, and let's say I'm wearing perfume, and let's say I'm wearing lavender oil, and I go into a space, a completely sterile medical space, that room will then start to smell like lavender oil because of the scent that I'm now releasing. Think of the scent as being energy. And now imagine someone else comes in, and that person is wearing rose oil. And so, although at first we may not necessarily notice that the other person is emitting this energy, this frequency, this scent, the entire composition of the room changes because you now have two completely different frequencies occupying a small location. And the reason the guides are trying to really get you to recognize this is they would love it if you could start working with them and recognizing them and how often they're coming into your space to better assist you. They're trying to help you to recognize their vibrational field so that you don't have those little astral tricksters or some of the dead people that are bored giving you inaccurate information. One thing I've found over the many years that I've been doing this stuff is that when I was younger and I was much more trusting than I am now, I would have different voices coming to me and different beings coming to me, and they would be giving me information. And like a silly little monkey, of course I trusted a lot of them because I didn't think to trust the vibrational frequency that was coming into my auric field as well as having the clairaudient message coming forward. And so I made the mistake of passing on some bad messages. And it wasn't due to a lack of psychic ability, it's because there's astral tricksters out there. And an astral trickster, it's kind of a funny term, I know, but it's a being that tends to like to manipulate, to play with you. I mean, ancient stories have talked about there being pixies that would mess with people, and a lot of cultures have their own interpretation of beings like this. It's a very common thing throughout history, and they're still around today. And so it's important for you to recognize the vibrations that are coming into your space and to recognize what direction they're coming from. Because a lot of beings, when they're coming into your space, if they're wanting to get your attention, they'll show up in front of you. They won't just pop up in the room behind you unnecessarily unless you call in for them to be back up behind you. And so let's take a moment and let's do this. Put your feet flat on the floor, stand up or sit up nice and straight, and let's do a few nice deep breaths. Perfect. And now what you're going to do is I want for you to just feel your aura for a minute. If it helps, close your eyes and just kind of feel the way the overall energy around you feels. Keep taking these wonderful deep breaths over and over. Allow for the vibration to come up into your body and to circulate around, moving your consciousness from one end of your body to the other, and just get to know how your auric field is feeling. And by doing this, it'll give you a better sense of what's coming up and how things are going to be shifting. Perfect. You don't have to do a really thorough job at this time. If you like, you can pause the video and do a more thorough one. But I'd like to get this information across. And so what I'd like for you to do next is, while you have a slight idea of what your aura is kind of feeling like, let me give you an idea of some things I noticed about mine. When I was moving my consciousness from the top section of my head, down my body, all the way down to my feet and the floor, I noticed that this side of my aura felt very tense and very, almost like the energy was like kind of like a throbbing sensation. It's important to take note of where you're holding tension in the body, where your muscles may be achy, where you may feel an energetic imbalance. My head felt completely clear, my shoulders felt fine, but this arm felt much worse, and this arm felt quite sore as well. But as I moved my attention down the rest of the body, the overall feeling of the body was fairly relaxed. And so that tells me that there's going to be a bit of an energetic disruption on either side of my arms, and so my sensitivity at that section of the body may be impeded. Now the reason for this is not due to any health issue, it's because I worked out too hard on Sunday. But that's okay, it's not a big deal. And so now that you've got an idea about what your aura is going through, I want for you to invite your primary guide in. Super fun, super easy, you can say it out loud or in your head. I would like for my primary angelic being to come into the room with me, please. Perfect. Now feel the energy in the room. Feel what it's like. And just, it might help to close your eyes. You might find it easier this way. But just kind of push your thoughts and your consciousness a little bit forward. Imagine, if you will, a bubble around you, and expand that bubble. Make it get bigger and bigger until it's around the size of the room. And as you're doing this, at some point you might feel a bit of an energetic shift, or somewhere where the energy feels a little bit different. For me, when I asked for my primary being to come in, I felt a tremendous amount of love in front of me. It felt like the energy felt like sunshine. It felt like it was very warm and like it was cascading down into the room, as though this pillar of energy was now joining me. And it might take you several tries to really get a strong sense of what the energetic vibration is like when something's in front of you. And that's okay, you can try this multiple times. But once you feel your guide, I want for you to ask your guide to just slowly walk around you. I've asked the being to move towards my right, and that what I notice with this is that I can feel the being moving, and I can see it moving too, but that's completely different. It's in my third eye, not my physical eyes. But what I'm noticing is the energy is more apparent at my head and my shoulders than it is at my arms. And I can feel the tingling sensation on this entire half of the body, but on this side it has a sense of calmness and just not as much of a frequency coming in at it. And as I'm feeling the being moving behind me, I can feel that same tingling, loving, vibrational energy moving slowly behind me, and now slowly moving over to the left side of me. And as it's moving, I can feel it moving back towards the front. And the reason you want to do this is you just want to notice what it's like when these vibrational fields are moving around your aura. It's important when you're doing an auric scan on yourself to not only check out the basic level of your aura, which is checking out the body, feeling the energy contained within the vessel and the energy slightly around it, but you're also going to want to get used to projecting your consciousness, moving your thoughts and your astral body to being around you in different locations. And the reason you're doing this is it's going to assist you with your astral projection. It will help you with things like your remote viewing to an extent. It will help with your telepathy. It's going to help you in all areas of your psychic abilities. But you do have to practice it. And so every day for a week, maybe even 2 weeks if you like, I would love it if you would just give this a shot. Sit down, get comfy, Notice your auric field, invite that guide in, and ask them to walk around you. And then when you kind of do that, ask them a few times, hey, can you go to my left? Now can you go behind me? Now can you go to my left again? Can you go in front of me? Get back to my left. Now can you walk over to my right? And feel the way it feels when their energy is walking around you or moving around you in different patterns, in different ways of moving. But what I mean by different ways of moving is notice if they're walking slower or faster. Those are things you want to take note of, because you'll start to recognize the different patterns that the beings that you're working with have. For instance, whenever I feel Archangel Michael's energy around me, typically when he comes in, yes, he does feel like this beautiful, shielding, golden energy, he is my primary, but the thing that I notice is quite often he will either stand directly in front of me, or if I call upon him because I'm feeling uncomfortable in a situation, he will stand right behind me. And it feels very similar to the energy you have when you're a little kid and your dad's right behind you. It feels very protective, very loving. Whereas with some of my other spirit guides, when I ask them to do the same thing with me, it's kind of funny because some of the more fairy or angelic, like little angelic type beings, their energy can be very sporadic where it goes like pop, 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 pop. It kind of just like pops in and out, which is really entertaining to watch when you see these little sparks of energy cascading into the sky and moving around these fun little patterns. But that's another way that you can help really gain a better sense of your psychic awareness. It'll also help you recognize when, let's say, you wake up in the middle of the night and you think there might be an energetic presence in the room with you, helping you to better locate where that presence is located, whether it's inside the house. If so, is it inside the room or outside the room? Or if it's outside, is it on the roof or outside on the lawn? Is it in the carport or is it in the garage? Whatever. Just better helping you to determine where things are on an energetic scale. I really hope that helps you. I hope you have a beautiful night. Peace, love, and light. Bye.